Alright, hello students and welcome to the iGeneralist report writing tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to write a report based on the data that you have collected either through your surveys or through your interviews. Now, just a reminder, the report that you're supposed to write is due in week 2 and the template that you can refer to is available on the FB group page that you have already joined. And I would like you to actually type out your report in a Word document, a soft copy, and email it to the same email address that you use to email your survey. And you need to also print out a copy of it and hand it in to your respective SS teacher. And last but not least, the subject of your email should be your class _ followed by a group. Right, this will be quite short and painless, so listen carefully. Now, the first part of your report is your introduction. Now, for my report, I'm going to use the example of the inquiry question, which smartphone should I get? The reason I'm doing this is so that I do not give an unfair advantage over other students by using their inquiry question. So, to take a quick look of how I actually wrote the introduction. You're supposed to tell me what your inquiry question is, followed by why the issue that you are discussing is important and how it will affect yourself or others. Now, the next part of your report should include an analysis of the data. Okay? Analyzing the data means presenting the different forms of data you have into logical categories. I'll give you an example in a while. So in this particular example, let's say for instance, I did my survey and this is the data that I have with regard to the amount of time that people spend on their handphones, their smartphones. So as you can see, on the Android phones, people spend about an average of 49 minutes a day on their phones, while on the iPhone, people spend about an hour and 15 minutes on their iPhone. So for this particular chart which I came up with, okay, it's actually categorized according to the time spent. Next, we have the next category is the percentage, a smartphone share of the market, meaning how frequently or what is the popularity of the different OS systems. Over here you see with the green, Android OS makes up 36% of the market and Apple iOS makes up 26% of the smartphone share of softwares. So in this instance, I'm categorizing them according to the different softwares available. Now, next, in order to make my decision of which smartphones to use, I'm now using the category of sales. Okay, so I'm looking at Samsung Galaxy versus iPhone smartphone sales, and in my particular survey, let's pretend that I did a survey. This is what I found. I found that iPhone had more sales than the Galaxy. Now, the different ways that you can present your data, as you can see the different pie charts which I use, the bar charts. Feel free to use as many as you want and as much variety as you want. Now, this final category would be the interviewees which I have interviewed, pardon the typo. Now, I gathered this data from the people I've interviewed. So let's say I have interviewed about 10 people, and out of these 10 people, 4 of them prefer the Samsung phone, 3 prefer the iPhone, 2 prefer the HTC phone, and one of them prefers the LG phone. Okay. Now, based on all this, what you have just done is you just presented the different data, but you have not explained what it means yet. So after you have done that, you move on to the findings part of your report. Now in your findings, you're supposed to tell me or explain to me what those details mean. So in this instance, I actually explain the different details one by one. First of all, this one would be the number of time spent on the iPhone. What does it mean? Second bullet point here is explaining the data between the market share of the different OS systems. Next one would be the number of sales made by iPhone versus Samsung Galaxy. And last but not least, I'm explaining what this means. Last but not least is your conclusion. In your findings, you're supposed to conclude what it all means. So for this particular inquiry which I'm doing, which smartphone should I get? This is what my conclusion is. Through our surveys and interviews, we can conclude that the decision of which smartphone to purchase is highly influenced by individual preferences. While the iPhone has sold much more than Samsung phones, and that iPhone users spend much more time on their iPhone, our data also shows that Android OS is becoming increasingly popular and that people are beginning to switch to iPhones. So what I'm doing here is I'm making sense of the data and trying to weave it into my conclusion. In this next section here, I also include snippets of what my interviewees actually say during our conversations or during our interview. Akao, who's an iPhone user, mentioned that actually iPhone becoming more boring. There are not many new innovations unlike Samsung. So that's pretending what Akao sounds like, and I've inserted his comments into my report. Another interviewee, Lulu, mentioned that I don't like Samsung phones because their designs are not as cool as the iPhone. Thus, we can therefore conclude that his decision on which smartphone to purchase is highly influenced by individual preferences. So that is my conclusion. This is a very important part. So do take some time to actually to make sense of your conclusion and use the data that you've gathered to support your conclusion. Last but not least, recommendations. Now, during the course of your interview or this inquiry that you're making, you might have realized that, hey, I don't have enough data, or I should have gotten this data, but I didn't. Okay, so put this into here so that, for instance, the next person who comes across this report might be able to use your recommendations and actually improve upon your report. So in my report, one of my limitations is I did not have sufficient data to prove which smartphone is much more popular. In fact, if you look at the data which I've just showed you earlier, it's actually a mix. Okay, half of half of them preferred Android phones or Samsung phones, and the other half preferred iPhones. In my recommendation, I said that in future we could explore other categories of smartphones in order to get a more certain or concrete answer. Alright? So with that, brings me to the end of the report writing tutorial. Again, this report writing tutorial is available on your on your MC Online portal, as well as your Facebook page. Alright, the project Facebook page. I'll make this available. All the other reports will also be made available to the Facebook group page. You can download the templates and as well as many other things that you need for this particular project. Alright, thank you.